Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sacred Conversations with Suze Maclaine, Pont, and Jakko Smit. And it is June 30th, 2025. And we are sitting here at our beautiful kitchen table in the middle of chaos. We are right now delivering a Speaking Miracles week. There's a lot going on. My parents are not necessarily in a really good place. They're in a loving place, but not necessarily a good place. My mom broke her hip a few weeks ago. My dad's dementia declined. There is a lot of things going on. And what we're going to talk about today in these sacred conversations is finding God in the midst of chaos. Because very often we can have this idea that we need a pause, that we need a break, that we need vacation, that we need time to stand still for just one fucking second. And the interesting thing is, time doesn't do that. And it doesn't need to. We don't need to pause. We need to allow ourselves to find God in the midst of that chaos. Now, of course, we might need to pause a little bit in order to do that. But the idea of our mind that we need to stop everything we're doing for a week until we found ourselves and then we can get back to the battlefield, that is what we're going to talk about. Because I'm not so sure if you're listening to the podcast, you caught up on the idea, but life is change. Life is constantly changing, and that might not just be my life. How's that for you, Jakko?
Now, there was a certain moment in my life that changed a lot in just a very short time. That's about 20 years ago. And until that time, I guess I lived a very regular life, and it was very much what was expected from where I came from my upbringing, and very like my family, my siblings lived. So I thought I was already in a much more adventurous life than my siblings or most of my family. But that changed a lot when I met Suze.
Yeah, when you're listening to this, you might not know Jakko and I met each other 20 years ago.
Yeah. And
Is
so
that where change started?
yeah, but it's funny because I think life is at the same time more chaotic than it was, because I felt it was really I could really control the things I did, but it was very much much less satisfying, or satisfying is not the right word, because that's not what I want to say. It was less about really live. It was about getting my things done, being in time on my work and doing it as well as possible, and be sure that I had enough money, that I did the things I found were pleasant, like making music, and but it was also not very clear where it led to, and what would be really nice to experience in life. To be open is that I didn't have a clue even what that could be. So
Did you ask yourself that question?
sometimes, of course, because I wanted to be prepared for the things I could do with my life, and the things I really wanted to do. But there was not a clear idea about it, except from the people I saw around, and yeah, I don't think it was a very rich future.
Maybe monetary rich.
Yeah, but not in what life could be about.
Yeah. So you were kind of looking for answers and not seeing them anywhere. Is that it?
Maybe I didn't know where to look even.
Yeah. Yeah. How did that make you feel? Because I cannot relate to this because I've never been in that situation, but looking at you, it kind of felt like there was a restlessness, a kind of I an inability to express, but a restlessness and a not feeling fulfilled. That's what it looked like. But what did it feel like for you?
Now, what I know, and that's maybe nice to know for you as well, is that I was already on a path of being real. I was really thinking and feeling that being real was important for me. Not go with the flow and do everything like my peers did. Um, and I was already looking, okay, what illusions am I living? But I couldn't see yet what this could be and where it could bring me, or what could even be more real and authentic than I did.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, if you live in the Netherlands in Rotterdam, then you don't see a lot of people around you doing that, living a lifestyle that you actually also would love. Because, of course, there's people in the world living that. But is that then attractive?
Yeah, you don't know where you look for until you you cannot find what while you're not knowing what you're looking for. So
And it's interesting because I hear you say this, and I've heard you say this more often. And what's coming to my mind now is that if I don't like my life, I change it. And I'll just leave. I'll just like, okay, this isn't it. You know what? Something's got to change. So I sell everything and I move on, ready for the next adventure. You did not grow up that way.
mm-hmm.
So for a lot of people, that looks like deliberately creating chaos all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like, yeah, but then you found a little bit of a thread and certain things that you like, and then all of a sudden it's like you erase the entire blackboard, and you're just, okay, you know what? I'm gonna burn all the bridges. I'm gonna burn all the art that I just created. I'm gonna start from scratch. To a lot of people, that sounds like lunacy. Sounds like there's a lot of chaos that might not be necessary. And maybe it's not necessary, but it gives you a lot of freedom. It gives me a lot of freedom to know that no matter what happens, I will be able to create, because creating is the one thing I'm able to do. Now, most people are on this threshold of, yeah, I want freedom, I guess. I want more creativity. I don't want chaos. So I want creativity. I don't want chaos. Because if I have chaos, then what?
No, I know the first almost 2 years that we knew each other, when we just met, and the year and a half from that moment, I loved the change and the liveliness and the freedom you seem to have, and I was also freeing myself with it. So for me, it was really a new life and new possibilities, new potentials, and yeah, so much more that life had to give than I could see before, but from say 2 years on, it was too much. I couldn't see why we should start over again all the time, and not. It's
We did start over all the time.
We got our children. We moved to another side of the country. I quit my job, and you had a company, and you changed everything in it. It became new kind of business.
Yes.
So, and all at the same time. It was a bit
I
frightening.
I didn't change you.
No.
I didn't change everything. You were the stable factor in my life.
Yeah. I couldn't see that at the time.
This is interesting, right?
Yeah.
You were the stable factor in my life. I decided I'm not going to change my partner and I'm not going to change my home. These two things are going to stay in place. And this is interesting because there's a lot of people who think, I want different experiences. I want a different life. I want to follow my heart. I want to follow my intuition. But I need to hold on to all these things because if I don't hold on to them, and then those things are often money, stability, job security, friends, people who like me and who understand me. But we hardly ever look at what is it that I really need in place. Because the interesting thing is the nature of life is change. Now, of course, I tend to change things deliberately as well, but I coach a lot of people who don't deliberately want to look for change, and that's fine. Sometimes life forces us to change. So in transition phases, right, from being a couple to being parents, from changing jobs, from moving countries, but also retirement or midlife. These are big changes. Moving home, our kids are now 18 and 19, and one of them is moving out real soon, and the other is looking for a student housing. So both of them are changing. That's not something we deliberately look for. It's something that happens. In COVID, government changed everything. Economy is changing things. Politics change. And if we are constantly trying to resist change, then we'll get to a place of trying to figure out how we can adapt to the change. And that means that we're trying to morph ourselves into something outside of us that we need to relate to. Now, yeah, maybe we need to relate to certain things. I mean, my kids are moving out, whether I like it or not. When I got pregnant, they were coming. And whether I liked it or not, if I didn't want to murder them, they were coming, right? I'm not saying all abortion is murder. That's an entirely different subject. But for me, it felt that way. So if these big changes, we can't always resist them. COVID was not really an option to resist it. The nature of life has changed. Our body is changing. Every 7 years, each and every cell in your body is going to be different. You have a brand new heart, brand new skin, brand new bones. Every single cell in your body will be different in 7 years.
Yeah, but there's a big difference because that's I guess it's a true story. I don't know. I'm not a scientist or a doctor, but the cells that are replaced, the new cells are in the same place. You don't change that much.
That's what you think?
Yeah.
Look at your body. Have you checked the mirror lately?
Yeah, but I don't see another person.
That's interesting because I do. When I look in my own mirror and also when I look at you. So this is interesting, right? So there are things that don't change. And that's what you don't see in the mirror. Because there is a facet or an aspect of us that never changes. That is our soul. Now, when we talk about finding God in chaos, this is what I mean. Can we find that continuous thread, that one aspect that doesn't change, that one golden thread in us? And can we not try to protect it and hold on to it, but try to be so curious that we constantly find it? And here's the interesting thing. Change will help us. Because if we think everything needs to stay the same so that I don't feel upset all the time, well, of course, I don't want you to feel upset all the time. But through things changing all the time, you will find the one thing that is constant. But if everything is always constant, how are you going to find it?
Yeah. And thereby is also that most people want change.
Yes.
They want grow. They want more money, more fulfillment, more love in their life. So there's a need for things changing, or at least a desire. So I guess if we resisting change, there will not happen a lot.
We're going against life. Now, there's an interesting point in what you're just making, because people want change, but they also want to control change. They want to control the outcome. They want to make sure that it is what they had in mind. And it's really hard to let go. It's easy to say, right? Let go and let God. You read it all over Facebook and Instagram, right? Let go and let God. Yeah. But what if God is disrupting stuff that you felt secure about? So I've lost everything in my life 3 times. I would actually want to say 4 times. And it's really easy to say, yeah, I'm just going to let go and let God, and then my bank account will fill itself. But what if your bank account empties itself if you let go?
That's my experience.
So what if you stop resisting change, change is bringing you closer to that one constant thread so that you can know it, trust it, move with it, knowing that you're going to be safe. And that is something that not all of us dare to experience, because finding God in chaos actually also means trusting chaos, trusting it to bring you somewhere that all the good, secure things could not possibly have brought you. Because somehow we need these 2 threads that we're always talking about in this podcast: the survival thread of our brain centers looking externally because we haven't had the right nourishment. If you want to know what that's about, just send me an email at support@SuzemaclainePont.com or listen to a previous episode. Not sure which one it is in right now, but it's probably in more than one episode. We develop brain centers as little kids, and if they haven't been developed right, then we create a survival thread that's constantly looking externally for other people, for other people's reaction, for how things are outside of us, as a kind of a confirmation that we're safe, instead of trusting our divine thread that is constantly informing us that we are safe because we are. And if we can lean into knowing, and not knowing with our mind, but knowing on every level there is to be known, that we are safe because we are, then change becomes the most exhilarating thing. Look at a little kid. Can you remember when our kids were young?
Mm-hmm.
Rosalie, our daughter, she would be drawing something, and then all of a sudden she'd throw away the paper, start over, make something new. Throw it away, start over, throw it away, start over, throw it away, start over. She was constantly creating, just for creation's sake. Just sheer curiosity of what would appear on the paper. If you would give her glue, scissors, crayons, clay, cloth, whatever. She'd be creating for days, literally days. We had one rule: every Sunday the table needed to be clear. And she would just throw away everything because it wasn't to hold on to, it was to create.
Yeah, it was not clean, it was clear.
Clear. Clean was an entirely different thing.
It couldn't be cleaned anymore because of the paint and all the things. Yeah.
And she has this disruptive energy of constant curiosity, of constantly looking at what is this? What is this? What is this? What is this? What am I discovering? What am I uncovering? How can I create? And the interesting thing is that all of life has that energy. Benjamin did it in very different ways.
Mm-hmm.
He was digging up the backyard constantly. He was constantly digging holes. And then people would say, there's holes everywhere. Yeah.
Not only other people. I did as well.
Oh, so Jakko, exactly. There's holes everywhere. He needs to fix it. No, he doesn't. He needs to follow his curiosity. Now, can he dig holes everywhere? Probably not. I wouldn't do it in the Queen's Garden. But you need some space to follow. What's going to happen if I do this? What's going to happen if I do this? This is how we discover where the certainty is in us. This is how we trust our own system, our own sense of being curious, of surrendering into life, not knowing, stepping into a field of not knowing.
And it says that creating is a natural thing if you allow it.
Exactly. We are here on this planet made in the image and likeness of God. What that means is that we are capable of creating worlds. We're capable of creating everything we can imagine. But we can't create it if we need to figure out and read a manual. We can only create it if we trust that divine thread. So I'm going to share a little bit that I probably shared already in millions of other podcasts. When we start out as human beings, we are a clump of cells that are all identical. Now, at a certain point, these cells start to specialize. What initiates that specialization is actually not DNA or things that we can understand, but it is actually the movement of the cells that sparks the specialization. If you want to know more about that, that's where I refer to a different podcast. But the cells start to move, and after the movement, there's specialization. Now, the interesting question is what causes the movement? The teachers I've studied with who are embryologists and did do the proper research on this say the movement, what causes that, is a complete unknown. That is what we call God force. That's not a man in the sky somewhere with a beard. That's a religious kind of portrait that we read in children's books. Now, this is a ultimate source of life that is causing a movement, and that movement is unlocking certain parts of DNA, making cells to start switch on certain parts of DNA, switch off certain other parts, and start to decide, if I'm here, probably good idea to become a heart cell. Hey, if I'm here, guess what? You know what? I think it'll be fun to become a left toenail. And this is how we create an embryo. There is movement, then specialization. Further movement, further specialization. More movement, more specialization. And it is always movement first. Change is causing life. Now, when we're born, that's not over. We still need to move. We're still being moved through life. That God force never left us. That's that God thread that I'm always talking about. It's the divine thread that is moving us through life. If we want to find our way back from the survival thread of holding on to our experiences of, if I do this, mom gets angry. If I do that, dad abandons me. If I do this, people get mad as hell or I lose things. If we want to get out of that into trust, we need to move back to that divine thread. That means we need to find that constant force that is everywhere in our system, everywhere in nature. But that means that if we want to find God, we need chaos, because in the chaos, we will find our way back to that constant divine thread. Not necessarily on our own, though. That's an entirely different thing. But if we don't allow change, if we're constantly resisting change, it is impossible to find that divine thread back, because the nature of resisting change is the nature of the survival thread.
Mm-hmm. I see a large parallel with the speaking miracles we do this week, because people tend to want to know what they will share before they start to build a story. But it's the other way around. You have to create, or you have to tell stories. And as long as you're telling stories from your memory or whatever, and you repeat them, and you listen to yourself, or you let others listen to your story, there will come a meaning to the story.
Yes.
It's not the other way around. There's not a meaning, so now I need a story, because then it will not happen, or it will happen in a way that it's not natural, because you don't use this life force. So the force of telling stories makes that there is becoming a meaning from it.
The meaning is being revealed.
Yeah.
Just like the purpose of our life is being revealed. Just like the answer to the chaos is being revealed. We don't need to fix it, create it, make it happen with our ego-driven survival thread. We need to allow the answer to emerge. That means that if we want to find God, we need a little bit of chaos. Now, can there be too much chaos? Yes. Because when you said there was just too much chaos, then we get lost. I shared in the beginning of this podcast, that you were my anchor. You've always been my anchor. From the very moment you stepped into my life, I knew if Jakko's there, I'm safe to allow change. We need to know what our anchor is. It could be another human being. We're not an island. We're not supposed to be an island. But there are certain things, and for you, one of the big things that I always see you coming back to over 20 years is your music, your trombone playing. And you call it an outlet. I call it something else. It is where you find that divine thread again. That's what I see happening.
Yeah, and it's that's the funny thing. It's getting harder and harder to suppress the impulse to play music.
Why would you want to suppress it?
Yeah, because of people wanting to sleep, or there's so many things. There has to be done some work, or
okay. If you're listening to this podcast, this sounds ridiculous. We live in a home on 5,000 square meters at the end of a 500 meter, for the Americans, that's 1,600 feet dirt road in the middle of frickin' nowhere. Our neighbors are 10 minutes walking distance. And Jakko has an urge to resist making music. I want to know more about that. I don't know where to take you next.
yeah, and sometimes it's nice to play music with other people. So,
yeah.
And they're not always available.
And then maybe we'll live too far.
Yeah. But I don't complain. It's more about that what I feel in myself, that I don't want to resist the urge to play anymore as well. Because I feel it's so part of me.
Yeah. It's what I have with painting. I create through painting. I reveal God through painting. When I paint, there is something being revealed to me. When I write, something is being revealed to me, and I need to do that. That's an urge. These are things that I need to do. I've been doing it all my life, and it is crucial for me to find that God in the chaos of how I paint, because I just start with a color. I don't know what color, and then at a certain point something is being revealed. That's how I use life. It's how I paint. And I need the connection with you to feel safe enough to allow myself to surrender into that chaos. What do you need in order to surrender into the chaos?
That's a good question. I would say nowadays, or since a long time already, but I would say you. I need you. Because, you have a very clear vision, and your trust in life is so big that I can, it helps me when I'm a bit lost. Yeah.
Big message of what we're trying to reveal here, guys, is we can share Instagram quotes, and we can share, just let go and let God. And they're all true. Of course they are. But it is really hard in the midst of the chaos of our life. And yet without the chaos of our life, we won't find it. And we need other people to hold us, to hold space for us, so that we can navigate through all of that chaos inside of us. Because it's not just the external chaos, it's also the chaos of our entire survival thread playing out all the time. And what we need in order to find God in chaos is space and stillness, not from a place of, I need the world to stop and I need to think, because I did that for 50 years of my life. I went to an island 4 times a year, and I still do. But I went all by myself, hoping to find God all by myself. And yes, I found it there to a certain degree. But there is no such thing more precious than other human beings being able to witness that process, because in the being witness of that process, the revelation comes. That's why all the seminars that we do here are seminars where, there's a lot of time alone, right? We have the Finding God retreat really soon. People camp in the orchard here. Most of the days you'll spend on your own. But it is in the witnessing of that process together, of being in a space together, that you are being witnessed in that journey, that the revelation comes. We need to find God in the chaos of our life, but we don't need to do it on our own.
Yeah, and I would add to it that without safety, it cannot be done, because the threat of survival is not for nothing. No. That it's a survival threat. We really believe in the deepest of our body, nervous system, that we need to do something to survive. So surrender to other things than survival it's not that easy. It's not just a story. It's not a narrative. It's so much more. So without the safety, and I think you asked me what is my anchor here, and that's you, because I know you're completely safe, and that's never before in my life I could feel this safety. So that was really needed to make a step out of towards my other thread. My
to
soul.
Really look back at, where can I find that God space inside of me, and show up with it.
And just one remark about the safety. It's such a different kind of safety than I could have imagined before, because my definition of safe was really different from what I believe now about safety. Because
what was your definition?
yeah, I don't know which words, but I do know now that people um, just soothing me or
Comforting.
comforting me wasn't safe at all,
Yeah.
because I had the feeling that I had to do something, or there should be a result of it, or there needed be an answer or a reaction or thankfulness or
Yeah.
gratefulness, and it's all not the same as feeling really safe and free.
It's the kind of safety that you're held and loved no matter what shows up inside of you, with the biggest dark holes and secrets and emotions and things. Sorry, I'm having the hiccups. Things that you might not have ever uncovered in yourself. Can you be safe with the vastness of who you are, exploring all the uncovered corners?
Yeah, and really being free from any duty, politeness, survival, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to end this podcast on a very important topic. We started with people tend to think we need a pause, we need a break, we need vacation. And yes, we do. But I want to refer back to what the word vacation really means. Because the word vacation comes from Latin, from the words vacare Deo, and that means freeing yourself for God. Now, freeing yourself for God means allowing all the chains of your past, of your survival, of everything you've learned about life, and free yourself to be visible for God, so that God can reveal itself for you, and that
Through you.
God, exactly, and God can reveal itself through you, so that the full creative force of God comes available to you in life. Now that means hanging out with God, not to restore yourself and get back to your fight. That means freeing yourself so that God can dwell back in you, find space in you, work through you, show up through you in your life, and you can come from a place of sheer curiosity to what's next, instead of constant holding on and struggling and fighting, to bracing yourself to what's next. Now, in order to do that, we have two very, very special things, and this is not a commercial, and yet it is a little bit. This summer, we have two things. We have Finding God in Everyday Life, which is a 5-day retreat here on our premise in our orchard, where people camp, and we really bring you back to that divine thread in you and how you can re-find it in your everyday life. That's one. And the other is that we have Sacred Summer School. And Sacred Summer School is 8 weeks online, where you get some videos, you get some audios, and we do group calls that you can do from anywhere. You can do that from walking on the beach. You can do that from behind your computer. You can watch replays. You can join in. You can skip sessions. And it's really, can we use this period of summer to free ourselves for God? Can we use this summer to allow ourselves to be so close to that divine thread in ourselves that we will know how to bring it back into life? If you've been resisting change, if there's transformations, if there is even the slightest, yeah, I'd like to do that, but this isn't the right timing or whatever, I would highly suggest you join us. Because the world needs you. We're waiting for you, not for your survival and your ego and your fear. We're waiting for the fullness of who you are, for the unconditional love, for you who can find yourself in the midst of chaos, because where I look, I see a lot of chaos in the world. Is there anything you want to say?
No, I think this is complete.
So you're wholeheartedly invited to join us, to elevate yourself, to show up in this world. And if there's anything that you would love us to talk about when it comes to finding God, because we're going to talk about this all summer, share it with us. More than happy to talk about your thing. I hope you find the place to navigate your summer into a sacred summer, and that you can find God in the chaos of your life. And by all means, share your process with us. And we can't wait to see you next week. Bye.
Bye.